Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we've got a lot to go through. First and foremost, you'll notice I'm wearing my Hut 8 hat. That's because this is a huge day for Hut 8 Mining and its shareholders. They've actually opened up shareholder voting for their proposed merger with USBTC, so we're going to talk about that in today's presentation. Speaking of USBTC, they actually just reported July production results on the 17th of August, so we're going to talk about those numbers as well. It's been pretty difficult to get data on USBTC as it's a private company up until this point. On top of all of that, we're also going to talk about my upcoming interview with Sue Ennis and some of the questions that you guys have submitted, and I'll be sharing my actual trades in my various personal accounts that I made over the last month. So a ton to talk about, a ton of value in today's video. Before we get into it, hit the like button, you guys. It's a big help. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join. And with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today's video, we've got a number of things to go through. I'm really excited to be able to put this one out. It's been a while since we've actually done one of these deep dive or company analysis type of videos. I've been doing a lot of interviews lately. We've had now 10 of the top CEOs or high-level executives from the Bitcoin mining community and publicly traded companies on the channel. I'm gonna try and have them on once a quarter. We've also started having other YouTube personalities that are involved in the Bitcoin space, like Talkin' Investing, Anthony Powers, and Sebastian on the channel. So I'm really trying to offer a unique flair here, you guys, where you can come learn about Bitcoin miners and the potential investment opportunity and get somewhat of a general consensus in terms of CEO and other YouTuber opinions. Now in today's video specifically, there's three things I wanted to talk about. So number one is provide an update on the proposed merger between Hut 8 Mining and USBTC. I've actually managed to dig up some USBTC numbers that I haven't seen before that I'll share in this video. Secondly, I promised you guys I was going to be interviewing Sue Ennis, who's the VP of Corporate Development at Hut 8. I've got the list of questions ready, and I wanted to tell you guys what the situation is with Sue. And then finally, I'm going to be sharing the live buys or trades that I've made in my various different accounts over the last month. That's another thing I want to integrate into the channel here. I've now quit my day job. I'm able to make videos during the trading day, and I want to start doing some live buys on the channel to show you guys exactly what I'm holding, when I'm buying, and when I'm selling. Now, before we get into all that, I wanted to quickly take a look at the chart here. So very similar to all of the other miners, unfortunately, in this space, Hut 8 Mining has seen a big drop off over the last couple of months, really since the middle of July, when we saw all that excitement about the potential approval by the SEC of a spot Bitcoin ETF. We know that there's been a number of those submitted to the SEC for review. I've actually got a snapshot here of all the various different dates when they're expected to hear a response. And the general thinking at this point in time is there'll be a unanimous approval for all of the various different companies that have applied for a spot Bitcoin ETF, really to ensure consistency and fairness in the market. Now, my good buddy Sebastian, who's been on the channel before, he's also very active in the Bitcoin miner space. You can see on YouTube here, generally putting out a video a day, which is super impressive. He was just talking about another interesting fact as it relates to the spot Bitcoin ETF, with Grayscale actually applying to convert their trust, their GBTC trust, to a spot Bitcoin ETF. And they're expecting they may hear back from the SEC as early as this week, which would really set the tone for those future approvals. So I would definitely go check that video out and throw Sebastian a follow or subscribe if you want to get that daily content. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is my upcoming meeting with Sue Ennis. So she's been on the channel quite a number of times. I've been wanting to get her on to talk about this planned merger with USBTC. However, it's very difficult to talk openly about the proposed merger or the expected benefits of these two companies coming together at this point in the process. So here's a list of the questions that I sent over to Sue. You can see 3 through 9 are from subscribers, you guys. So thank you very much for submitting those, whether you did through Twitter or the YouTube community tab. So feel free to pause the video at this point and take a look at the questions. If there's any other ones you guys have and you want added to the list, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. Now, the big question that stood out for me personally as an investor in Hut 8 Mining is when this deal was originally proposed, this was supposed to be an all-stock merger or combination of equals, valuing both companies approximately around $500 million US, giving New Hut, or the combined company, a total estimated market cap in the range of about $1 billion. And you can see they also disclosed the expected combined installed self-mining capacity to be in the range of about 7 to 7.5 exahash. Now, since this was originally announced, we're still expecting the combined company to be in that 7 exahash per second range in terms of capacity. However, the price of Bitcoin has fluctuated greatly over the last few months. And because Hut 8 Mining has that large HODL in excess of 9,000 Bitcoin, their market cap is highly dependent on the price of Bitcoin itself. So as you can imagine, and as we saw in the chart here, if we start to see general optimism towards Bitcoin, like we saw in the middle of July, again, based on that big SEC spot Bitcoin ETF news, the market cap of Hut 8 can move substantially and exponentially. So you can see at that point in time, the market cap was nearly double or closing in on $1 billion compared to where it sits now. And that's exactly where number 3 on this list came from. Is this still considered a merger of equals because Hut 8's market cap was at one point 50% more than when they announced it? And how will that impact the originally communicated stock splits? And if you recall our interview with Sue Ennis about 5 months ago at the time this merger news broke, you can see due to the fact that each of these companies had different amount of fully diluted shares, with Hut 8 having about 221 million compared to USBTC Corp having only about 66 million, they had come up with differing ratios or exchange ratios to ensure both halves of this new proposed merged company would come out with 44 million shares. And there you can see the combined total would equal approximately 88 million shares. So long story short, you guys, there's been a number of changes in the market since this merger was announced. We've had very little visibility because of the nature of this merging process. However, I am still in talks with Sue and hopeful to have her on at some point this week or next. She's just opened up an AMA on Twitter to ask questions related to the merger. So I'd encourage you guys to post these questions there as well. And hopefully we can have her on the channel to talk about some of the details here as soon as she's got the okay from Hut 8's legal team. Now, the next part of this video, I think, will add a lot of value if you're invested in Hut 8 Mining, and it's actually a production report from the month of July from USBTC Corp. Now, why this is interesting is because this is not a publicly traded company. I haven't seen any of the numbers broken down to this level of detail, and this personally gives me a lot more excitement about the merged company and some tangible metrics to have in the back of my mind. So they actually provide 4 different categories of data here. The first being operational metrics, again for the month of July 2023. Total number of miners under management came in just shy of 190,000, with their month-end hash rate under management just shy of 19 exahash. Now they then go on to talk about their pro forma operational metrics, assuming their Celsius transaction goes through. So I'll talk to that in a second here. You can see that boosts them to 311,000 miners under management and a hash rate under management just north of 31 exahash per second. So that's really one of the industry leaders here and would propel New Hut into a much more elite league of miners. Then they talk about their self-mining metrics. So they've got 48,000 machines that were installed as of the end of July and a month-end hash rate of 4.9 exahash per second. So that's what would be combined with Hut 8's existing exahash per second to get that 7 to 7.5 exahash of self-mining capacity. Now, in terms of energy metrics, they've got 730 megawatts under management, so quite large compared to any of the other miners in this space. And they're also participating in some of those ERCOT curtailments, with just over 3,000 megawatt hours actually being sold from their eco wind farm back to ERCOT. Now, if we continue to scroll down here, you can see they provide commentary and an update on that Celsius mining situation, along with a section on the proposed merger with Hut 8. So I'll quickly read through this, you guys, because I definitely think it adds a lot of value. So starting with the commentary, USBTC reached a major milestone this month in its pursuit of building a resilient, diversified revenue base. As we continue to scale, self-mining is no longer representing the primary driver of of the company's revenue stream. So that's a key thing to understand here. Hosting and property management revenues have grown significantly, and that's creating strong revenue visibility and downside protection in this bear market we're seeing. At the same time, we continue to maintain significant upside potential should Bitcoin run by optimizing our self-mining operations. That'll be enhanced even more if the merger goes through because of Hut 8's massive reserve or HODL in excess of 9,000 Bitcoin. And they expect building profit share structures into their hosting and property management agreements to also benefit from the price of Bitcoin increasing. In July, self-mining contributed 286 Bitcoins to our portfolio. So again, a key number to understand here, you guys, 286 Bitcoin. Plus, if we jump back to July's operational update from Hut 8 Mining, you can see they had self-mining Bitcoin generation of 116. So between the two, you're looking at 402 Bitcoin, which really puts them on pace with a lot of the other larger cap miners we cover on the channel. And again, not to mention that massive reserve of 9,152 Bitcoin, 8,300 of which, so the vast majority, which is unencumbered as of July 31st. So to me, as an investor in Hut 8, you guys, this is very promising. They've got an even stronger revenue profile than I had thought, much larger hosting business, and are bringing in excess of 400 Bitcoin per month to really add to that impressive HODL or reserve. Now on top of that, USBTC wanted to provide an update on their Celsius mining operations. And what's exciting here is on May 25th of this year, they won a bankruptcy auction to manage and operate the assets that were owned by Celsius Network. And that includes a lending portfolio, digital assets, and approximately 122,000 mining machines. And because this was a bankruptcy auction, they were able to acquire these assets at a very competitive rate. Now, on top of that, the company has already announced that it's secured hosting agreements for around 150,000 miners. So that includes companies like Telsawatt, Marathon, Foundry USA, Sphere 3D, and Decimal Group. And as we just saw above, in aggregate or overall, the company now expects to manage a fleet in excess of 310,000 mining units. And I'll leave this article from Business Wire linked in the video description below if you want to go in and take a look for yourself. So that's it for the Hut 8 portion of today's video. The last section I wanted to cover today is to give you guys a look at my trades in my various different personal accounts over the last month. This is going to be the first account. As you can see, this is my personal account, TFSA. So for those of you located in Canada, you probably know what that is. For those of you in the States, very similar to a Roth IRA, where you pay tax on the money that you're putting in, but all future gains and withdrawals are tax-free. So I personally like to do more speculative stocks in these kind of accounts, because if you hit that big one out of the park, you're not going to be taxed on any of the gains. So in this account, you guys, probably spent around $2,000 in the month, with just over 1,000 of that US going into CleanSpark, about 370 going into Iris Energy, and an additional 780 US going into Marathon. So all three of these companies trade on the NASDAQ. I'm really a big fan of CleanSpark right now. Honestly, any of the Bitcoin companies, because of the big pullback we've seen in the price of Bitcoin over the last few months. And as I've talked about on the channel previously, I'm really trying to diversify my holdings in the Bitcoin miner space. The next account is going to be my wife's spousal RSP. So this is a retirement saving account. So this is a more typical type of retirement or savings account where there's tax advantages on the front end, but you do pay tax on any gains or withdrawals down the road. So in this account, I actually sold 9 shares of Google for $1,200. I was able to actually sell at $132.30 per share, and I had originally bought these shares for $87.57. So that was good for $400 profit or 51% return. Luckily, I was actually able to take advantage of Google, Apple, Nvidia, and Microsoft on the recent run we saw in tech. And with that money and some new additional capital I put into my wife's spousal retirement account, I picked up 210 shares of CleanSpark, so about $1,200 worth at an average price of $5.67. So you can actually pick up shares today for $4.72, so much lower than when I picked these up on the 17th of August. I grabbed 675 shares of Bitfarms on the Toronto exchange for an average of $2.19, so that was about $1,500 Canadian. and then I picked up an additional $700 worth of Iris Energy. Now, the last account we were active in over the last month was my wife's TFSA. So she manages this account herself, but it looks very similar to my trading account. She purchased 50 shares of CleanSpark for an average of $5.15, 440 shares worth of Bitfarms, again on the Toronto Exchange, and financed most of this with the sale of 5 shares of Apple for $196.11 that she initially picked up for $163.13 for a return of about 19%. So with that being said, you guys, overall between all of our accounts, we've got about $30,000 worth of Bitcoin mining shares with an additional $20,000 worth of call option contracts. And in one of our next videos here, I'll be sure to give a full breakdown of all of our different trading accounts and all of our different positions in this space. So that's it for today's video, you guys. Hopefully you found some value. Make sure you hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, McNallie Money, we'd love to have you, and we'll see you in the next video.